Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa Mayfield,
I'm Shelby Rodwell.
and we are here today for Texas City Tells History Uncovered. Texas City ISD.
Yeah, with graduation and our recent thoughts, everybody graduating from TCISD and moving on to college and everything, we thought we'd sit down and talk a little bit about local school history.
We want to give a shout out to our 2026 grads.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we know you're going to move on to bigger and better things, and we look forward to hearing your stories maybe later in the future.
Yeah, we know you'll make Texas City proud.
Yes, exactly. So, what do we know about Texas City history?
Yeah, well, we know that education was an important part of people living in this area even before Texas City was incorporated as Texas City.
Back in 1905, I think Texas City ISD came about.
Yeah, the board members were elected December of 1904, and then TCISD was officially established in January of 1905. But even before that, in the 1870s to 1900s, there were schoolhouses being held.
Kind of impromptu schoolhouses, right? Because some of the schools were located on the second floor of a business.
Yeah.
Because at the early stages of Texas City school history, they had school where they could. There were no official buildings for the students until I believe it was
It'd be early 1900s.
1900s. Yep.
Yep.
Oh, after 1905, of course. But Central High School opened on 3rd, and that was an interesting little building. We have some pictures of it in the archive. Just this little single story with a bell tower on it. And the classes were really small.
Yeah, I always think that's interesting to think about. I think that kind of shows people's determination and the forethought that people had about Texas City, knowing that this would be a place to invest in that way. Having schoolhouses in 1870s in a small area with a very small community, that just kind of shows that they could see that Texas City would be a worthwhile place to become established and incorporate and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, the forefathers really saw Texas City as a place for growth. And so that's right. Their mindset was, how are we going to grow? And, you can see as the city grows, the schools start to change. They start to get bigger. They're falling apart at the seams. There's so many students.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go hand in hand. The growth of Texas City and the growth of the schools in Texas City go hand in hand. Yeah. Yeah.
In less than 10 years after Central School was opened on 3rd Avenue, we have an expansion of TCISD. We two more schools are built.
Yeah, Colefeld was one, and
Wolven.
And Wolven was the other, right?
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we do have a yearbook from Wolven back from, let's see, what's the date on here? 1920. So if anyone is interested to see some of our older yearbooks, we do have them in the archive. This one is from 1920.
Yeah. And the museum works with the library quite a bit. We have some physical copies in person that can be looked at on site. If you don't feel like leaving the comfort of your home, the library is working on some digitization as well, which is really awesome.
Working on digitizing the yearbooks so that they're accessible. So doing a little bit of research into the history of Texas City High School and in school in general, I came across an article, I believe it was in the early 1920, when they had the first graduating class for the high school. Or for Wolven, I believe it is. They had one principal and 3 teachers for 125 students. And can you imagine 3 teachers for 125 students? That's a lot. But only 95 students graduated. That was kind of strange.
Interesting,
I was trying to figure out why. And
That's a pretty
apparently,
high rate.
yeah, that's
To not, yeah.
yeah. Well, apparently there was a religious cult that was living in Texas City at the time. And we're like, of course they didn't name the religious cult, the religious cult. So now I'm going to have to do some more research to see what the name of this cult was. But
yeah, but right before graduation,
yeah,
packed up and left, right?
yeah, they left.
Yeah.
So that's why they only had 95 students graduating versus 125.
Well, really interesting. See, that's why history is fun, because you dig around and you find little things like that,
little tidbits that people don't know about.
Yeah. Very interesting.
I love the old newspapers. You find a lot of information there.
Newspapers are fun.
Yep. Oh, and one other thing. I found a yearbook from 1923, and we weren't stingarees.
Oh, really?
Ooh, does anyone know what we were? I'm kind of curious if any of our listeners know, but it was the octopus. So at some point, they decided they wanted to be an octopus. At least I know for 1 year, because we do have the yearbook for that.
Really leaning into the coastal.
Yeah,
the coastal theme of it all.
Stingaree, octopus, but so so Stingaree won out, of course. You know.
I think I like the stingarees more.
Yeah, but the octopus was kind of cool too. We do have an interesting picture of that one. So this is the picture of our yearbook. I mean, this is our yearbook. It's all torn apart, but we are preserving it in the archive. And here we have the little octopus, and it says octopus. And this is 1923. Yeah, and we have some wonderful pictures in here. And everything in this yearbook is hand done. So everything is handwritten in this yearbook. Let me turn it around so people can see. With, their own drawings. We have some pictures of some of the people from that time period. Oh, wait, we have. Oh yeah, that's
hand drawings.
Hand drawn, and then here's a picture from, who is this? Miss Margaret Hendricks, Miss Ruth Strong, the Strong family, and Miss Grace Jones here from 1923. So if you're ever interested in taking a look, we have this in our archive.
These are the kinds of things that I think us as historians geek out about the most.
Oh yeah, exactly. I love looking at old photographs, and we do have a number of old photographs of the Texas City students, really from the very beginning. And it's great to see how we had a basketball team, I think, for Wolven, and half of it was women and half of it was men. So I'm curious if the women played, like what their role was.
What the dynamic was.
Yeah, what the dynamic was. I have no idea, but it shows the same amount of women and the same amount of men in the picture. So I'm curious if anyone knows. If you know one of your family members was on the basketball team back in the early part of the 20th century, I'd be curious to know.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. And around the time that these are coming out, right, the 1920s, we kind of see this rapid growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only, I mean, it was in Texas City as a whole.
Right.
Industry is really starting to take off.
Yeah, exactly.
And so with more industry means more people moving to the area, which means more children, which means more schools. And so you see this kind of, this expansion. And even until the 40s.
Right, yeah, exactly. Actually, I think it's even more past the 40s, because, I mean, the current Booker T, that the middle school that we have used to be the high school. And so then, and the stadium was in the same place for that school.
Yeah.
But when they built that high school, I believe they had to knock down the other stadium, which is over there by the bus station. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so it just kind of shows that type of expansion. And one thing that I think is really interesting that Teresa and I were talking about a few days ago when we were kind of preparing for the podcast, in 1949, there was a basketball state championship.
Right.
Right. This is really, really significant. This is only 2 years after the
disaster.
And then only 4 years after the end of World War II. So the community had been through just so much hardship.
I
so
know.
having this win was such a huge thing in 1949, right?
Yeah, I think not just a huge win for the school and for those students. I think it was a win for the city too.
Yeah,
They just
absolutely.
everyone felt so happy for those
Yeah.
students. Everyone felt connected to all of those students.
Right. And with it being so close to the disaster,
Yeah,
so soon
exactly.
after, I think that gives people a reason to come together again, but this time for something to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a celebration. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I bet that was a fun celebration.
And I know that we have some people in our community whose fathers were on that team. So I would love to hear stories. If you've got something, put them in the comments. We'd love to hear stories. We love stories.
Yes. We love hearing and telling stories.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
do. Yes, we do. And then also, I know that 1997 and 1999, there was the Texas City ISD won the state football championship. One was played in the Astrodome, and the other was played in the Dallas Cowboy Stadium, which was the old Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and you have a picture.
Yeah, I
of
do.
one
I have a
parade,
picture
right?
of the parade right here. And it's let me see. Yeah, everyone's coming together, super excited, cheering on the team. Yeah, football has been, and sports have always brought, I think, this community together.
I think so too. One thing I brought right over here, this is actually a football schedule. On the front, it just kind of looks like a general, just like a sticker almost, but on the back, you see that there is a football schedule for 1952 for all the different games that Texas City was playing starting in September and until November. Yeah, it's really funny. You can see one is September 26th, Ball High.
Oh.
An away game. So yeah, I thought this was very, very interesting. This is a ticket that somebody would have used to get into one of the football games.
What else do you have there? I see some very cool little trinkets here.
Yeah, I have kind of a mix of a bunch of different memorabilia. We have a charm bracelet, which is one of my favorites. We have a little cap over here, some ribbons. I just mentioned us playing Ball High, right? In 1952. One of the ribbons says "Topple the Tours," which I thought was really funny. So kind of a long-standing, fun sports rivalry, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, these were fun things that they gave out during football games, and it's fun that we get to have them, still, so that we can share them with our community.
Yeah,
And they can bring back some good memories, we hope.
yeah. We can continue to share the camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. But also, Texas City has had a lot of notable people graduate from Texas City.
Yeah. That's kind of what brought us to wanting to record about this, as we were talking about, graduation just happened, and we were talking about some well-known names and some really interesting people that are from our city, right?
I mean, there are, I don't know if anyone knows this, but there are 5 mayors that came out of Texas City High School. I don't know of another town in Galveston County that could say that they've had 5 mayors graduate from their high school.
Yeah.
And to go on to do amazing things for the community.
Right. And one person that I'm always excited about that I believe we've seen on our city social medias before, if you're a fan of the Righteous Gemstones, like I am, Edie Patterson, who plays Judy Gemstone, is also from Texas City and graduated from TCISD. Yeah. She is very, very funny.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to watch her. I don't know.
Oh, it's great. She plays alongside Danny McBride, Adam Devine, John
See?
Goodman, really big names. So it's cool to see, you know, Texas City local.
Yeah. I mean, you have actors, you have politicians, you have engineers who've gone on, and you've had commissioners, you had, I don't know,
Athletes.
Athletes, definitely, right? Who've graduated from Texas City ISD. And if you're one of the athletes, if you're one of these people, comment in below and tell us a little bit about your story. We'd love to hear, and I'm sure everyone else would love to hear too.
Yeah.
Oh, but I forgot. You know, I had this. I have this one gentleman. His name is Eddie Glennon. He comes in and talks to me at the library. He's such a kind man, and just a sweet fellow. And he was telling me how it was a tradition at Texas City ISD when high school used to be where Blocker is now, that the band would have a little parade for every home game. And just that was part of their tradition before the new Texas City High School was built. So I thought that was kind of interesting because, you know, it's a bit of a ways.
Yeah. So they went from
the current, well, the Booker T, I'm not sorry about Booker T, but they came from Blocker to the stadium, and then before the new Texas City High School was built.
Right. Yeah, so that's a bit of a walk. That's fun.
Yeah, a little bit of a walk, but you know, fun, little tradition.
Something to get the whole community in. I am admittedly not from Texas City. So when I was in high school, they did something where we had band walk through the school halls, but I gotta say, having a community parade is a lot more fun.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Texas City, we have a lot of history, right? And as far as TCISD goes, schools. A little bit of that history we haven't touched on yet, and there's a reason we are going to want to talk. We're going to want to give this subject its own episode because there's just so much there.
Oh yeah.
But up until desegregation,
that's right.
TCISD was only for one portion
of the community.
Population. So the first school for African Americans that was opened in Texas City was in 1912 in Barber's Chapel Church. From there was some expansion as well when Booker T. Washington was built in 1946 to 47. There were some limitations for students there, and growth happened, and there were a lot of citywide changes over the next couple of decades. But that's something that we think deserves its own episode,
right?
Because
so
of, just how much history is there.
Exactly. So we'll talk about that in our next episode. A bit of the desegregation and Booker T. Washington, the high school, because it really wasn't a high school for a while. But we'll talk about that.
Right. Yeah. And all that to say, this area has, again, like we say every episode, has so much history. Varying subjects,
grown in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot more history to tell. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the flip side. And I'm Teresa Mayfield,
and I'm Shelby Rodwell,
and thanks a lot.